In a grand room filled with bright lights and strange machines, the Galactic Council gathered for an important meeting. Leaders from many different planets were present, their faces serious and worried. They had come together to discuss a growing concern: humanity. The council members were all powerful beings. Some had skin that shimmered like stars, while others had multiple arms and eyes. They ruled over vast empires, each one more advanced than the last. But today, they focused on a single planet, Earth. "The humans are weak," said Sylor, a tall alien with blue skin and sharp features. "They are afraid of war. They have never faced a real fight against anyone powerful." Murmurs of agreement filled the room. Many council members nodded, sharing their beliefs. They saw humans as small and unimportant, thinking that Earth was just a tiny dot in the universe. They believed that humans could not protect themselves. Zira, a member with bright green skin and large, expressive eyes, leaned forward. "We should teach them a lesson. If we show them our power, they will know their place. They will obey us." The other members liked this idea. They planned to send a group of their strongest warriors to Earth. Their mission was simple: intimidate the humans into submission. The council believed that once they saw the might of the Galactic Council, the humans would back down. Meanwhile, on Earth, news spread about the strange events happening in space. People watched as lights filled the sky. Scientists were puzzled and frightened. They gathered in labs, trying to understand what was happening. In a small town, a group of friends met in a garage. They had always been fascinated by space and aliens. Tim, the leader of the group, looked at his friends with excitement. "What if this is the moment we've been waiting for? What if aliens are really coming?" Sarah, always the voice of reason, frowned. "But what if they are dangerous? What if they want to hurt us?" As they debated, they did not realize how serious the situation was. The council was already planning to send their strongest aliens to Earth, believing that humans would crumble under pressure. Back in the council chamber, the leaders were finalizing their plan. "We will arrive in 1 week," Sylor announced. "We will show them our weapons and technology. They will see they cannot resist us." The council members cheered. Feeling powerful and invincible, they were sure of their victory, laughing and celebrating the easy defeat of the humans. But little did they know, this decision would be their greatest mistake. Days passed quickly. The alien delegation prepared their ships, sleek and shining, ready for the journey. On Earth, panic and confusion spread as people tried to understand what was happening. News channels ran stories about the incoming alien force, creating fear and uncertainty among the population. Back in the small town, Tim and his friends were determined to find out the truth. They gathered information from the internet and watched videos of sightings. "We need to be ready for whatever comes," Tim said, his voice steady. "We can't let fear control us." Sarah nodded, still concerned but impressed by Tim's determination. "We should talk to others. If we work together, we might stand a chance." That night, they held a meeting with their neighbors and friends. People shared stories of the lights in the sky and their fears about what might happen. They all agreed to stay informed and prepare for the unknown. As the days counted down, the council's ships approached Earth, shimmering against the stars. The aliens aboard felt confident. They were sure that the humans would not dare to fight back. Finally, the day arrived. The alien ships landed in a field outside the small town, their engines roaring like thunder. People gathered, eyes wide with fear and curiosity. Tim stood among the crowd, heart racing. He looked at the ships, feeling a mix of excitement and dread. "We need to show them we won't back down," he whispered to Sarah. As the alien leaders stepped out, their presence was overwhelming. They were tall and imposing, dressed in shining armor that sparkled in the sunlight. The council's leader, Xylor, raised his hand to silence the crowd. "Humans," he boomed, his voice echoing. "You have been warned. Submit to the Galactic Council or face the consequences." The crowd gasped, fear spreading like wildfire. But Tim felt a spark of bravery within him. He stepped forward, standing tall. "We will not be afraid," he shouted, surprising everyone around him. Siler's eyes narrowed, surprised by the human's defiance. He hadn't expected this. The council had believed humans would show fear and submit without a fight. As the tension hung thick in the air, Tim's friends rallied behind him. They knew they had to stand together, not just for themselves, but for all humanity. This moment marked the beginning of a battle neither side expected. The Galactic Council had made a mistake, and they would soon learn that humans were not as weak as they believed. The Council had underestimated humanity, and as the crowd began to cheer for Tim, they felt a sense of unity. The Council's belief that humans would fear war was about to be shattered. Fear in the air. As the alien ships loomed over the small town, a sense of fear mixed with curiosity filled the air. People gathered in groups, their whispers buzzing like angry bees. Tim, still standing bravely at the front, could feel the weight of everyone's eyes on him. He knew this was a critical moment for humanity, but he also felt the fear that gripped the hearts of those around him. Xylor, the alien leader, towered over the humans, his glowing blue skin shimmering in the sunlight. He raised his voice again. "You humans are nothing but ants beneath our feet. Submit, and we will spare you." The crowd fell silent. The words hung in the air like a heavy fog, wrapping around them and squeezing their hearts. Some people turned to each other, their faces pale with fear. Others, however, stood firm, anger rising in their chests. Tim felt a surge of energy. "We won't submit to you. We are not afraid," he shouted again, his voice stronger this time. The words sparked a flicker of hope in some and confusion in others. Siler's eyes narrowed. He had not expected such defiance from these small creatures. He turned to his fellow aliens, who stood behind him, their expressions a mix of amusement and disbelief. "Look at their bravery," he mocked. "They think they can fight back against the Galactic Council. How quaint." Among the crowd, whispers of doubt began to spread. What if they're right? What if we can't win? Sarah, who stood beside Tim, could see the worry on her friends' faces. She wanted to encourage them, but doubt seeped into her heart as well. In the distance, sirens blared as emergency vehicles rushed to the scene. News reporters set up their cameras, capturing the moment. The world was watching, and Tim knew they needed to show strength, not fear. "Everyone, listen," Tim called, trying to rally the crowd. "We have faced tough times before. We can't let these aliens scare us into submission. Together, we can find a way to protect our home." Slowly, a murmur of agreement spread through the crowd. People began to cheer, and hope flickered like a candle in the dark. But deep down, many still felt a knot of fear in their stomachs. Siler noticed the change in energy. The humans were standing up. And he didn't like it. "Do you think your courage will save you?" he sneered. "You are still outmatched. We have weapons you cannot even imagine." Tim's heart raced. He knew the aliens had advanced technology, but they had something else. Determination. "We may not have your weapons," he shouted back, "but we have the will to fight for our home. And that makes us stronger." As the tension grew, the alien officers exchanged glances. Some of them were beginning to feel uneasy. They had come to Earth expecting an easy victory, but now they were faced with a crowd of defiant humans. Suddenly, a voice broke through the noise. "What do you want from us?" A woman stepped forward, her voice steady despite the fear around her. "Why are you here? We don't want to fight." Siler looked at her, taken aback by her bravery. "You will serve the Galactic Council, or you will be destroyed," he declared, his tone harsh. The crowd gasped again, but Tim stepped forward. "We are not your subjects. We are free beings." He felt the adrenaline pumping through his veins. Xyler's expression turned serious. "If you choose to fight, you will face the consequences. We will not hold back." At that moment, a young boy, no older than 10, stepped out from behind his mother. "What's a consequence?" he asked, his eyes wide with innocence. Xyler's gaze softened for just a moment. A consequence is something bad that happens because of your choices, he explained, but his voice held a hint of impatience. The boy frowned. Then why do you want to hurt us? We didn't do anything to you. Tim saw the alien leader hesitate. For a split second, the tension in the air lightened. The boy's simple question had struck a chord. Xylor straightened up, shaking off the moment of weakness. Enough. This is not a game. You have 1 day to make your choice. Submit or prepare for war. With that, he turned and marched back to his ship, his guards following closely behind. The crowd remained silent, staring at the ships hovering above them, casting long shadows over the ground. As the alien delegation departed, people began to whisper among themselves. Fear and uncertainty hung in the air like a heavy storm cloud. Sarah turned to Tim, her eyes filled with concern. What do we do now? Tim took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. We prepare. We gather our strengths and resources. We need to show them we won't back down. The crowd slowly began to disperse, but a few remained, drawn by Tim's determination. Let's meet tomorrow, he suggested. We need to form a plan and share ideas. If we work together, we can stand strong. As the sun began to set, the people went home, each one carrying the weight of fear and uncertainty. But among them, a spark of hope was ignited. They knew they would need to stand together to face the threat that loomed over them. The Galactic Council believed they could easily dominate humanity, but they had no idea what was about to unfold. With fear still in the air, a new resolve began to grow among the people of Earth. They would not give in easily, and the fight for their home had just begun. Finding strength. The sun rose over the small town, casting warm light on the faces of worried people. After the alien delegation's warning, fear lingered in the air like a thick fog. But amid the uncertainty, a new sense of purpose began to grow. Tim gathered his friends and neighbors in the local community center, determined to find a way to prepare for the coming conflict. Inside the center, a crowd of anxious faces filled the room. Tim stood at the front, a flip chart beside him. Thank you all for coming, he said, his voice steady. We need to talk about how we can protect our home from the Galactic Council. Sarah, standing beside him, looked out at the group. We can't just sit back and wait. We need to work together and come up with a plan. Tim nodded. Exactly. The Council thinks we are weak and afraid, but we can prove them wrong. We have strengths they don't see. As he spoke, the crowd began to listen more intently. We might not have their advanced technology, but we have creativity, teamwork, and determination. We need to find ways to defend ourselves using what we have. An older man named Mr. Jensen raised his hand. What can we do? We don't have weapons or ships like they do. Tim smiled, feeling encouraged by the support of the crowd. That's true, but we have something they don't. Our knowledge of this planet. We know every inch of our land, every road and forest. We can use that to our advantage. The crowd murmured in agreement, the fear in their eyes slowly fading. Sarah added, we should gather supplies. We need tools, food, and anything that can help us. Let's not forget our community. If we unite, we can be much stronger. A young woman named Mia chimed in. And we should train. If we have to fight, we need to be ready. We can't let fear hold us back. The energy in the room shifted. People began to share ideas, their voices rising with excitement. Tim felt hope loom in his heart. Okay, let's split into groups, he suggested. One group can gather supplies, another can organize training, and the last group can work on communication. We need to connect with other towns and share our plans. The crowd quickly formed groups, each person eager to contribute. The atmosphere buzzed with energy as they began to discuss their roles. Over the next few days, the townspeople worked tirelessly. The supply group scoured homes and businesses, collecting food, tools, and anything useful. They gathered old equipment, from kitchen knives to farming tools, Every item could be turned into a weapon if necessary. The training group found a local gym and began holding sessions. They practiced basic self-defense moves, learned how to use improvised weapons, and trained in teamwork exercises. Every day, more people joined, eager to learn and prepare. Tim watched as his neighbors transformed from fearful individuals into a united front. Their faces shone with determination, and he felt proud to be part of this community. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the group gathered for a training session. Tim stood at the front, encouraging everyone. Remember, it's not just about strength, it's about strategy. We need to think on our feet. As they practiced, Sarah led a group in a mock defense scenario. They set up a makeshift barricade with furniture and pretended to repel an alien attack. Laughter filled the air as they stumbled and struggled, but they learned quickly from their mistakes. Good job, everyone. Tim called out after the session. We're making progress. Let's keep pushing forward. We're learning to fight together, and that's what matters. Meanwhile, news of the alien threats spread across the country. People from nearby towns began to hear about the preparations and offered to join. Soon, volunteers poured in, eager to lend a hand. This support only fueled the town's determination. One day, while the training was in full swing, an unexpected visitor arrived. A local teacher, Mr. Thompson, came to watch. He had always believed in the strength of education and knew how to inspire others. "I've heard about what you all are doing," he said with a warm smile. "I'd like to help. Knowledge is our greatest weapon. We need to learn more about the Galactic Council and their technology." Tim nodded, excited about the new addition to their team. "Absolutely. If we can understand their technology, we might find a way to counter it." Mr. Thompson began gathering information, researching the Council and its ships. He shared what he learned with the group, explaining their strengths and weaknesses. As they studied together, the townspeople discovered something interesting. The Council relied heavily on their technology, but had little understanding of human creativity. Tim and his friends began brainstorming ways to use that to their advantage. "Let's think outside the box," Tim encouraged. "What can we create using our tools and knowledge? We can surprise them." Ideas flowed like a river. They discussed building traps, using distractions, and even creating makeshift weapons that could surprise the aliens. Each idea sparked excitement, and the fear that once gripped them slowly transformed into determination. As the days passed, the group grew stronger and more united. They began to see themselves not as scared humans, but as warriors ready to defend their home. One night, as they gathered under the stars to train, Tim looked around at the faces of his friends and neighbors. He felt a sense of pride swell in his heart. They had come so far together, and he knew they were ready to stand against whatever the Galactic Council had in store. Little did the Council know, humans were not as weak as they believed. With every practice, every strategy, and every ounce of determination, they were ready to fight back. Fear began to fade, replaced by the fire of hope and strength. As the night deepened, laughter and shouts echoed through the air, a clear sign that humanity would not go down without a fight. They were ready to show the Galactic Council the true strength of their spirit. A bold move. The days passed quickly, and the tension between the humans and the Galactic Council continued to rise. Tim and the townspeople had worked hard to prepare, but the time for action was drawing near. With only a few hours left before the Council's deadline, they knew they needed to make a bold move. In the community center, a planning session was underway. Tim stood at the front, surrounded by his friends and neighbors. The room buzzed with excitement and anxiety. "We have one chance to show the Galactic Council we won't back down," he said, his voice strong. "Tonight, we need to send a message." Sarah raised her hand. "What if we go to the field where they first landed? We can show them we're not afraid to stand our ground." The idea sent a ripple of energy through the crowd. Tim nodded, feeling inspired. "Yes, we'll gather there at sunset. Let's bring our makeshift weapons and show them we are ready to fight." Mr. Thompson, The teacher who had been helping them spoke up. We can also use lights and sounds to create a distraction. If we make enough noise, we can confuse them and show we are not the weak beings they think we are. The crowd erupted in cheers, and a sense of determination filled the room. Tim felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders, but he also felt the power of unity among the people. They were ready to take a stand. As night fell, the townspeople gathered in the field where the alien ships had first landed. The stars sparkled overhead, and the air was thick with anticipation. Tim looked around at his friends, their faces illuminated by the glow of flashlights and homemade torches. Remember, we are not here to fight for violence, but to show them we will not be afraid, Tim reminded everyone. Stay together and be ready to act as a team. Just then, they heard a low hum in the distance. The alien ships were approaching, their lights flashing like a warning. The crowd fell silent, fear creeping back into their hearts. Tim stepped forward, his heart racing. We can't let fear stop us. They may have their technology, but we have the strength of our spirit. As the ships landed, the ground shook beneath them. The alien warriors emerged, their tall figures outlined against the night sky. Siler stepped forward, his eyes scanning the crowd. You dare to challenge the Galactic Council, he called out, his voice booming. Tim stood tall, his friends behind him. We are not challenging you. We are standing up for ourselves. We refuse to be your subjects. Siler's expression shifted, a mixture of surprise and anger crossing his face. You will regret this decision. You are nothing but ants before us. The townspeople raised their makeshift weapons high, their determination shining through. Tim shouted, We are united, and we will protect our home. You may think you can intimidate us, but you are mistaken. Suddenly, the crowd erupted with noise. They started banging pots and pans, creating a cacophony that echoed through the night. The sound was loud and chaotic, designed to confuse the aliens. The alien warriors flinched, taken aback by the unexpected display. They had never faced such noise from humans before. The strategy was working. Now, Tim shouted, and the townspeople began to move forward, brandishing their weapons. They rushed toward the aliens, not to attack, but to make their presence known. Xyler raised a hand to silence his warriors. Stand your ground, he commanded, but his voice held a hint of uncertainty. The human's boldness had caught him off guard. As Tim and his friends advanced, they shouted slogans of strength and unity. We are humans. We will not back down. Their voices rang out, echoing in the night. With the noise reaching a deafening level, the aliens began to retreat, unsure of how to handle the situation. They had come expecting easy prey but found a united front of determined humans. Tim felt a surge of hope. Keep going. Show them we are not afraid. The townspeople pressed forward, their confidence growing with every step. Suddenly, Siler raised his hand again, and the aliens stopped. Enough, he yelled. You think your noise and bravado can scare us. We are not afraid of you. Tim stopped, surprised by the alien leader's boldness. You may not be afraid, but we will not be your subjects. You cannot control us. Siler stepped forward, his eyes locked onto Tim's. You have guts, human. But guts will not save you from the might of the Galactic Council. We will return with our full force. Then we will be ready. Tim shouted back, his heart pounding. The energy in the air was electric, and he could feel the resolve of his community behind him. Stylor turned to his warriors, signaling them to retreat. You have won this round, but remember, the Council does not forget. With that, they boarded their ships, leaving the humans standing strong in the field. As the ships took off into the night sky, the crowd erupted in cheers. They had faced the aliens and stood their ground. Tim's heart swelled with pride as he looked around at his friends and neighbors. We did it, Sarah exclaimed, her face shining with excitement. We showed them we're not afraid. Tim smiled, feeling a wave of relief wash over him. This is just the beginning. We have proven that we can stand together. We can protect our home, no matter what." The townspeople celebrated late into the night, their laughter ringing through the air. They had made a bold move, and it had paid off. As they stood together, united in strength and determination, they knew that they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With the Galactic Council's threat looming, one thing was clear: humanity would not be so easily intimidated. They were ready to fight for their future, and they would not back down. The turnaround. The atmosphere in the small town shifted after the bold stand against the Galactic Council. The townspeople felt a newfound strength within themselves. Tim and Sarah could sense the change, and their spirits soared. They had faced the aliens and had shown them that fear would not rule their lives. However, not everyone felt the same way. As news of the confrontation spread, some townsfolk remained worried about the Council's next move. Rumors circulated that the Council was gathering reinforcements, and the fear of retaliation loomed like a shadow over the community. One evening, Tim gathered his friends at the community center again. The room was filled with anxious faces, some still buzzing from their victory, while others were concerned about what was to come. "We showed the Council that we are not afraid," Tim began, trying to keep the mood positive. "But we need to prepare for their return." Mr. Thompson stood up. "I have been researching their technology and battle tactics. If we can understand how they fight, we can find ways to defend ourselves more effectively." The crowd nodded, appreciating his efforts. Sarah added, "We need to reach out to other towns. If we can unite with them, we will be even stronger. We can't face the Council alone." The audience murmured in agreement, realizing the importance of community. "Let's organize a meeting with nearby towns," Tim suggested. "We can share our plans and create a coalition. Together, we can show the Council that humans stand together." The group quickly organized a meeting with representatives from neighboring towns. Word spread, and soon they had a larger gathering in the community center. People from all over came to hear about their experiences and to unite against the Galactic Council. On the night of the meeting, the atmosphere was electric. Tim stood in front of a packed room, filled with people eager to fight for their homes. "Thank you all for coming. We have shown that we are not afraid, but we need to be smart about how we prepare. The Council thinks we are weak, but we can prove them wrong." As the representatives from different towns shared their stories, Tim felt a sense of unity grow among them. They discussed strategies, shared resources, and began to build a plan for defense. People volunteered for different roles, eager to contribute. One woman from a neighboring town named Maria suggested, "What if we set up lookout points? If we can spot the Council's ships before they arrive, we can prepare ourselves." Tim nodded. "Great idea. We can use local high points to monitor the skies. This will give us time to gather everyone and get ready." As the meeting continued, they developed a communication system to share information quickly. They established a network of messengers who would alert the towns whenever there was a sign of the Council's return. After several hours of planning, the meeting came to an end. The excitement in the room was palpable, and Tim felt a renewed sense of hope. They were no longer just a small town. They were part of a larger movement. As the people left the community center, Tim and Sarah stayed behind to discuss the next steps. "We need to train harder," Sarah said, her voice filled with determination. "If the Council does come back, we need to be ready." "I agree," Tim replied. "Let's set up a schedule for training sessions with everyone in the coalition. The more prepared we are, the better our chances." The following weeks were filled with hard work. The townspeople trained daily, practicing self-defense and teamwork exercises. They worked together, building makeshift defenses and learning to communicate effectively. Meanwhile, Mr. Thompson continued his research, gathering more information about the Galactic Council. He discovered weaknesses in their technology that the humans could exploit. "This is good news," he said during one of their training sessions. "The Council relies heavily on their ships. If we can disrupt their communications, we can create confusion among them." Tim's eyes lit up with excitement. That could work. If we can disable their technology for even a short time, we can gain the upper hand. As they trained, the townsfolk grew stronger and more confident. They felt a sense of unity that transcended their fear. The community had transformed into a powerful force, ready to defend their homes. Then, one day, as they were training in the fields, a lookout shouted, "Ships in the sky." The crowd fell silent, their hearts racing. Tim turned to his friends, his face set with determination. "It's time to put our plan into action." The people moved swiftly, gathering at their lookout points. Tim had arranged for everyone to know what to do. Some formed a defensive line with makeshift weapons, while others prepared distractions and communication tools. As the ships drew closer, the tension was palpable. The townsfolk held their breath, ready to defend their home. Tim's heart pounded in his chest, but he felt a sense of calm wash over him. They were ready. When the ships landed, Siler stepped out, his expression dark. "You dare to prepare against us again," he shouted, his voice filled with anger. Tim stepped forward, standing tall. "We will not back down, Siler. We are united, and we are ready to fight for our homes." Siler sneered, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. "You think you can win," he scoffed, but Tim could see that he was beginning to doubt his own strength. With their defenses in place, the humans stood firm. The crowd shouted in unison, their voices rising like a tide. "We are strong. We will protect our home." As they faced the aliens, Tim felt a surge of courage. They were not just fighting for themselves. They were fighting for all humanity. And in that moment, he knew they would turn the tide against the Galactic Council. The big battle. The tension in the air was thick as Tim and the townspeople stood ready to face the Galactic Council. They had trained hard, and their spirits were high. This was the moment they had prepared for. The ships hovered above the field, casting shadows over the anxious crowd. "Stay calm," Tim shouted, trying to rally the townsfolk. "We know what we're doing. Remember the plan." Siler stepped out of his ship, flanked by his alien warriors. His expression was fierce, and his eyes scanned the crowd. "You humans think you can defeat us," he called out, his voice echoing across the field. "You are nothing compared to the might of the Galactic Council." Tim stepped forward, his heart pounding. "We are not afraid of you, Siler. We have prepared, and we are ready to fight for our home." The townspeople cheered, their voices rising in a powerful chorus. They held their makeshift weapons high, united and determined. Siler seemed taken aback for a moment, but he quickly regained his composure. "Very well. Let's see what you can do." With a sharp wave of his hand, Siler signaled his warriors to charge. The aliens surged forward, their advanced weapons drawn, ready to attack. The humans braced themselves, adrenaline pumping through their veins. "Now," Tim shouted, and the townspeople sprang into action. They had set up barricades and lookout points, and they used these to their advantage. Tim quickly moved to the front, rallying his friends. "Form a line," he yelled. "Hold your ground." The townspeople moved together, creating a wall of determined humans ready to defend their home. As the alien warriors approached, Tim felt the heat of the battle rising. The first clash came as the aliens reached the barricades. The humans swung their makeshift weapons, throwing rocks and sticks with fierce determination. They fought hard, refusing to give in to fear. "Keep pushing them back," Sarah shouted, her voice strong as she rallied a group of friends beside her. They threw objects and yelled battle cries, each one filled with the passion to protect their home. The chaos of battle erupted around them. The sound of weapons clashing filled the air, and the ground shook with the force of the struggle. Tim could see his friends fighting bravely, their faces set with determination. They were no longer just townspeople, they were warriors fighting for their future. In the heat of battle, Tim spotted Mr. Thompson helping a group of younger kids stay safe behind the barricades. The teacher was shouting instructions, guiding them to throw rocks and distract the aliens. "Stay together," he yelled. "Don't let them through." Suddenly, Tim saw a group of aliens breaking through the line. Panic surged in him. "They're coming," he shouted. "We need to hold the line." He charged forward, joining his friends in the fight. Together, they pushed back against the aliens, refusing to let fear overtake them. Each blow they landed brought them closer to victory. But the aliens were relentless. Thyler watched from a distance, strategizing how to turn the tide. He could see that the humans were stronger than he had anticipated. "Use the ships," he commanded, frustration in his voice. "Bring down the barriers." Suddenly, the alien ships began firing energy blasts into the field. Bright lights flashed as the energy beams hit the ground, sending shockwaves through the earth. The townspeople ducked and covered their heads, their hearts racing with fear. "Get to cover," Tim yelled, guiding his friends to the makeshift barricades. The humans scrambled to find safety, but they were determined not to retreat. They had come too far to give up now. Tim looked around, feeling a surge of responsibility for everyone. "We can't let them win. We need to fight back." He scanned the area and spotted a group of kids watching in fear. "Hey, you all follow me," he shouted, running toward them. "Grab anything you can," he instructed, pointing to rocks and sticks scattered on the ground. "We need to create distractions." As the kids gathered materials, Tim turned to the adults. "We can't let their ships intimidate us. Let's hit them from all sides." The townspeople rallied together, throwing rocks and shouting loudly. The combined force of their voices shook the ground as they aimed at the alien ships. The unexpected attack caught Sylor off guard. He turned to his warriors, disbelief in his eyes. "Focus on them," he shouted, frustration boiling over. "Stop them at all costs." But the humans didn't back down. With every stone they threw, they grew bolder. The once anxious townspeople now roared with confidence, each throw a declaration of their strength. Suddenly, one of the ships began to falter. A direct hit from a rock had damaged its outer shell. Sparks flew as it started to descend, crashing into the ground with a thunderous noise. The townspeople cheered, their spirits rising even higher. Seeing one of their ships downed ignited a fire in the hearts of the humans. "We can win this," Tim shouted. "We just need to stick together." The battle raged on, but the tide had turned. The humans, fueled by their determination and unity, pushed back against the alien warriors. The once feared Galactic Council was now on the defensive, caught off guard by the unexpected resilience of the humans. Kyler's face twisted with anger and disbelief as he watched his warriors retreat. "This is not over," he yelled, but his confidence wavered. The humans had found their strength, and they were determined to defend their home at all costs. The battlefield echoed with cheers as the townspeople pressed forward, standing tall against the might of the Galactic Council. They had transformed their fear into courage, and together they fought not just for survival, but for their freedom. A new beginning. The dust began to settle after the fierce battle. Tim stood at the edge of the field, his heart racing. The townspeople were cheering, their voices ringing out in celebration. They had done it. They had fought against the Galactic Council and won. Xylor and his alien warriors had retreated, scrambling back to their ships. The once mighty council had been defeated by the courage and unity of the humans. Tim watched as the ships rose into the sky, disappearing into the distance. A wave of relief washed over him. As the adrenaline faded, Tim turned to see Sarah rushing toward him. Her face was lit with joy, and she threw her arms around him. "We did it. We really did it," she exclaimed. Tim smiled, feeling her energy and excitement. "I can't believe it. We showed them that we are not to be messed with." The crowd began to gather, and Mr. Thompson stood at the forefront. "Everyone, listen up," he called out, his voice booming. "We have proven that we are strong together. We must continue to stand united, not just against threats, but for our future." The townspeople nodded, still buzzing with excitement. They formed a circle around Tim and Sarah, celebrating their victory. Laughter and cheers filled the air, a joyous contrast to the chaos of earlier. "Let's not forget what we accomplished today," Tim said, raising his voice. "We came together as a community, and we showed the council that we are not afraid. We can face any challenge if we stand together." The crowd roared in agreement. As night fell, the celebrations continued. The townspeople gathered around a large bonfire, sharing stories of bravery and triumph. Children danced and sang, their laughter echoing in the cool evening air. The sense of unity was palpable, a bond formed through their shared experience. Tim looked around at his friends and neighbors, realizing how much they had changed. They were no longer just a small town. They had become a strong community, ready to face whatever the future held. As the fire crackled, Sarah leaned in closer to Tim. "What do you think will happen now?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "I think we need to prepare for anything," Tim replied. "The council may come back, but we won't be caught off guard again. We have each other, and that makes us stronger." The townspeople spent the evening sharing ideas for the future. They discussed how to build better defenses and keep the community safe. Mr. Thompson suggested forming a town council to oversee preparations and maintain communication with neighboring towns. "We need to be ready for any threats," he said, "but we also need to find ways to grow and improve our community. This victory is just the beginning." Tim and Sarah exchanged glances, both feeling the weight of responsibility. "We can organize training sessions," Tim suggested. "Let's make sure everyone knows how to defend themselves and how to work together as a team." The crowd agreed enthusiastically. "And we should reach out to the other towns," Sarah added. "If we can unite, we will be even stronger. We need to show them that they are not alone." As the night went on, the people began to share ideas for the future. They talked about creating a community garden, setting up a school for the kids, and organizing fun events to keep everyone connected. Their victory had sparked a desire to build something greater. As the fire crackled, Tim looked up at the stars. For the first time in a long while, he felt a sense of hope. They had faced their fears and emerged victorious. "This is just the beginning," he thought to himself. "We can build a future together." The next morning, the sun rose brightly over the town, illuminating the faces of the townspeople as they gathered again. Tim stood at the center, ready to address the crowd. "Good morning, everyone," he called out, his voice steady. "We had a lot of work ahead of us. We need to make sure our town is safe and that we are ready for anything the council might throw at us. But we also need to focus on building a strong community." The townspeople listened attentively, nodding in agreement. "Let's set up teams for training and defense," Tim continued. "We'll also organize community projects to bring us closer together." With renewed energy, they broke into smaller groups to discuss their plans. Some focused on defense strategies, while others brainstormed ideas for community improvement. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement and determination. Days turned into weeks as the town flourished. They built new fences and lookout posts, all while creating a community garden that brought fresh vegetables for everyone. Children learned self-defense techniques, and families spent time together, strengthening their bonds. The townspeople held events that celebrated their victory, turning their fear into joy. They organized festivals, shared meals, and shared stories of bravery. Tim and Sarah found themselves at the center of it all, leading the way with their unwavering spirit. As they worked, the town became a symbol of resilience. News of their victory spread to neighboring areas, and soon they received visitors from other towns, eager to learn from their experience. Tim welcomed them with open arms, sharing their story and encouraging them to stand strong together. One evening, as the sun set over the town, Tim and Sarah stood on a hill overlooking their home. "Look how far we've come," Sarah said, her voice filled with pride. Tim nodded, his heart swelling with gratitude. "We turned our fear into strength, and now we have a future worth fighting for." As they watched the stars begin to twinkle in the night sky, They knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The Galactic Council had underestimated humanity, but the townspeople had shown that they were stronger than anyone had ever believed. They were ready for a new beginning, one filled with hope, unity, and the unwavering spirit of humanity.